one of our vessels, the Bob Barker. And what I'm very happy to have the opportunity to do at animal rights conferences like this is to talk about what's happening to the animals that call the oceans their home. And that's because the oceans and marine mammals and fish rarely, if ever, receive the attention that they deserve, not just within the animal rights movement, but in the media, in the public, and just really in general. And yet, for whatever reason, I mean, we're all advocates for animals, and yet, you know, the planet Earth is known as the blue planet. There's more than almost 3/4 of it is water. You know, the species that are going extinct that Tim was talking about, most of the species that are found on our planet are found in the oceans. And yet, for whatever reason, so little of our focus is on marine wildlife and marine conservation issues. And I've tried so hard to understand it, and I think maybe it's because it's so far, you know, out of sight and out of mind. You know, what happens to the oceans, it happens under the surface. It doesn't, you know, it's not visible to most people. And that's why I'm really grateful to be a part of Sea Shepherd, because I feel that what Captain Paul Watson is so great at doing is bringing these issues really into the forefront of the media and into the forefront of people's consciousness. We really have to care about the oceans because we fight all these other issues. We fight, for example, palm oil and what that's doing to the rainforest, but people neglect the idea or the thought that most of the oxygen that's produced in the world comes from the oceans. The oceans really are the lungs and arteries of the planet that we call home. So what Sea Shepherd does, and why I'm so glad to be a part of Sea Shepherd, is that we act to enforce international conservation law, because the oceans do have a lot of laws to protect it. We know that many more laws are required, but it does have some very, very strong laws, but those are laws that oftentimes are not enforced. And they're not enforced because the governments of the world lack either one of two things. They lack either the political will to tackle these problems, or they lack the economic means to do so. So because this session is about tactics, what I thought I would do is go through some of the ways that Sea Shepherd has directly intervened and the tactics that we've used to directly save marine wildlife on the high seas. Sharks are in an incredibly difficult situation, and the shark rarely gets any attention unless it's something in the media, most likely on Fox News, about a shark attack. Steven Spielberg has, you know, sinned greatly when he made the movie Jaws. And yet the shark, which is burdened with this incredibly bad reputation, is not responsible for many deaths globally. It's about between 2 or 5 people are killed globally or internationally by shark attacks. That's compared to the 100 people that are killed every year because of ostriches in Africa. So I mean, the reputation is not warranted. And yet, for whatever reason, it's as if the fishing industry has declared war on shark populations. There's 73 million sharks that are killed every single year. That's 10,000 sharks that are slaughtered every single hour. And they're slaughtered for no other reason than the fact that there's an incredible value placed on their fins. And as global populations have exploded, and as for example, in Asia, as the economy in Asia and China in particular has boomed, the demand for shark fin soup has increased along with it. So we've gone from 10 years ago, maybe there were a few million people in China that ate shark fin soup that were able to pay the $100 price that a bowl of shark fin soup goes for. But now it's about 300 million people. And so it's not strange that shark populations in the North Atlantic have fallen by 95% in just a few decades. Or the fact that the Galapagos Islands, this treasure, this place where Darwin himself came with his theory of evolution. I mean, this is an area where shark populations have fallen by 70%. This is a marine reserve, a designated marine reserve in it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and sharks are approaching extinction to such a rate and to such a degree that, you know, the scientific community believes that as many as 20 different species of sharks could go extinct in just half a decade. So here's an example where the issue is economic means. If you look at the Galapagos, there is an incredible want by the government there and by the National Park Service to protect sharks, certainly because ecotourism is a very viable industry. And yet the money isn't there. So for the past 10 years, Sea Shepherd has had a project there. We donated a vessel called the Serenian. We worked together with the Galapagos National Park Service to arrest poachers. We've arrested almost 36 poaching vessels since 11 years back when we started. We've seized shark fins through our canine patrol unit that goes out and sniffs for shark fins and sea cucumbers and other poaching products. And because of that, we've really made a difference. And that difference is really thousands of sharks saved. And like I said, about 36 criminal operations shut down. The bluefin tuna gets very little attention as well. We rarely talk about fish. I don't know why, but we don't. And yet the bluefin tuna is nearing extinction. And if you look at the Mediterranean, where bluefin tuna fishing is rampant, bluefin tuna populations have fallen by 97% in a couple of decades. I mean, there's 3% the amount of bluefin tuna that there were a few decades ago. And yet even though scientists around the world are really in agreement that the number of tuna that should be fished out of the Mediterranean is really precisely 0 and no more, the International Commission for the Conservation of Atlantic Tunas, they set a quota for 13,500 tons. I hate measuring any kind of living being by tons, but I don't know how many individuals it is, but it's a lot. But 13,500 tons is what they said, and then the actual amount caught is 60,000 tons because of poaching. Because when you got such a price on your head, when a shark fin soup bowl, a bowl of shark fin soup sells for $100, that's the price on your head. Your chances of survival are pretty low. And it's gone to an extent where the bluefin tuna in the Mediterranean, in the North Atlantic, could go extinct in half a decade. And so we're met with all these numbers. I mean, these aren't statistics. These are hard realities where the consequences are very, very real. The consequences are not only the death and suffering of these animals, but the absolute devastation, depletion of the oceans that we ourselves require for our survival. Here's a situation where there is no political will to do anything about these problems, right? And we were talking about even the legal body that governs bluefin tuna fisheries. They continue to set ridiculous quotas on these bluefin tuna, even though there's 3% left in the Mediterranean. So 2 years ago, Sea Shepherd sent the Steve Irwin to the Mediterranean. We came across the bluefin tuna poaching operation. Rather than taking photos of it, rather than just documenting it, we sent 5 swimmers into the water. We cut those nets open. We set those tuna free. That's 800 bluefin tuna in the Mediterranean that are swimming free, simply because we didn't just sit around and wait for these bureaucracies to get around to doing something when it was too late. We took the initiative and we took that action. Whales have always been dear to my heart. I know Captain Paul Watson has been fighting against whaling for his entire life, and it's one of the reasons that I will follow him into battle anywhere, to the ends of the earth and back. And here's an example where in 1986 there was a ban on commercial whaling passed. So since 1986, now that's 27 years ago, it's been unlawful to kill whales. And yet in that amount of time, Japan, Norway, and Iceland have together killed 40,000 whales in direct violation, many of these whale species, in a designated whale sanctuary in the southern oceans in Antarctica, one of the most remote, pristine areas left. I mean, one of the areas where there really is very little human development when you know how all the other continents look. And we've got public opinion on our side, we have the media on our side, we have the law on our side. We've had the law on our side for almost 3 decades, and yet it continues. And when you get to that stage, I don't see how there's any other solution possible other than direct intervention and direct action. And if this fleet of killer ships is going to go down from Antarctica down to the Southern Ocean year after year, then we have no other choice. If the governments of the world sit by passively and do nothing, then we have no other choice but to actually go down there and physically intervene and shut them down ourselves. And so last year, Sea Shepherd was able to save 729 whales from slaughter. The year before that, we were able to save 863 whales from slaughter. And that's almost 1,700 individuals that are swimming free in the Southern Ocean whale sanctuary simply because we showed up. And simply because we went down there and we blockaded and we cost this industry millions and millions of dollars in lost profit because it had to be done. So I'll wrap wrap it up really quick, but right now we have the Bridge of Bardot, our scout vessel, our trimaran that's in the South Pacific, setting up cooperations with governments in the South Pacific to do similar projects like what we're doing in the Galapagos, where we're going to be working with these government agencies, with their law enforcement agencies, to arrest poachers. At the same time, we're getting our vessels ready to once again head down to the Southern Ocean's whale sanctuary. We bankrupted the Japanese whaling industry for 2 years in a row. They're really, I would say that they're on the ropes, so we'll go for a total knockout this year. We'll be going down not just with 3 vessels, we'll head down with 4 ships. We're calling our next campaign Operation Zero Tolerance, not because we're not going to tolerate any of their whaling activities, but we're going to get a 0 kill quota. We're going to find the whaling fleet earlier than ever before. We'll send them home without a single whale killed. We'll once again bankrupt them, and I'm absolutely confident that in the next year, we should be able to shut down whaling in the Southern Ocean. So thank you for your time.